Welcome back. In this and the next video, we are going to prepare cards. So as you know, we now can create boards, we can create lists in those boards, and we can edit those, we can delete those. Now it's time to add cards as well. So a list can have multiple cards, and that's the idea here. So these could be individual exercises or individual tasks, or in this case, individual episodes that we want to add. So here I can create a new card, for example, episode 1, and as you can see, the UI changes, but then of course when I click the button, stuff happens, but it's not loaded yet. So that's something that we will have to do later on. But for now, we can add that functionality here, and you can try to do that yourself because you have seen how to do that with lists, and now it's time to do the same thing with cards. So it's very similar, and you can try to do that. Of course, you will have to create a new model, so a card model, and then you will need to adjust the task model a little bit, and pretty much the rest will happen in the task list items adapter. So if you want, you can try that. Of course, task list activity also needs to do something, but you can also just follow along. All right. So if you really feel good today and you feel like challenging yourself, then try it yourself. Okay, so let's get started. So I think the first thing that we should do is we should create a new model. So I'm just going to go over to Java, and here into models, I'm going to create a new class. So here, Kotlin file class, this one will be card. So a individual card should be created. And of course, I want to have a data class here. So let's make it the data class, because I don't want to have any functions or other members. I just want to have the different variables, and it should be parcelable, of course. So what could we need about a card? Well, we need the name of the card. Then what else would make sense? Well, who created it? So created by, and then also the val assigned to, and that one will be an array list because it could be assigned to multiple people, right? So an array list of strings, which will be array list. By the way, in my case, I keep the card as well as the tasks super simple. So I don't have anything about the date, about the order, those kind of things. I don't have them in here. So the way we do it now is we do it based on when things were created. That's something that you might already have noticed here. So you can see the last thing that you create goes to the beginning of the screen. So we have an order where the latest created element is the first one in our list here on the left hand side. You can of course adjust that. So if you want to have a different set of order where you then maybe later on drag and drop stuff around, then you have to adjust your task as well as your card and have some additional information about, for example, the position in here as well. But as I said, I'm going to keep it simple. I'm going to create cards based on when they were created, and they will be added to the list accordingly. Okay, so that's the idea here. We have the card now, and of course we want to make it parcelable. And I'm gonna use parcelable so that we can store it, right? So if you want to make something parcelable, you need to store it. Now, of course, we need to add the parcelable implementation. Now, depending on the add-on that you used, and by the way, I'm using a plugin, as you know, probably, but here some things are missing. So let me just paste everything in here and go over it real quick, or run over it so you can see it. But we have done this multiple times, so I think it doesn't make sense for me to go over it in depth or in detail. So the code is a little different here. You can see I'm using source read string. It could also be parcel, it doesn't matter. The name here doesn't really matter. Then we have the read string with double exclamation mark. Same for the string here as well. So the created by. And then we have the assigned to, which is an array list. So create string array list here. Describe contents returns 0. Write to parcel. Here we need to write the string, and then write the string list, where we then each time pass in the variables that we created for the card. And here I'm using equals with this. So this one here. And then the companion object is the creator, which creates the card. You can see object, create a card, create from parcel, and new array are the two overridable functions, or overridden functions, so to speak. And that's what's happening here. Okay, so depending on the tool that you use, this should be auto-generated, but in my case, it doesn't auto-generate it this way, so I would still need to make manual changes, but I've just shown you how it would look like, or it should look like. Okay, so this is a card. Now we need to adjust our task, because our task can now have multiple cards. Okay, so let's go over here and add a new entry here. Of course, we need to add a comma here at the top, and then we say vol cards should be an array list of card elements. And I'm going to initialize it directly with an empty array list. Accordingly, we of course need to make changes as well here. So here I'm going to add parcel dot created typed, or create typed array list, and here I need to pass in card dot creator, and here of course it's the list, and here we need a comma. Okay, so create typed array list with a card and double exclamation mark here at the end, as well as here we need to add this line here saying write typed list. And what is it? It's the cards list that we created here. All right, and the rest should stay the same. Now we can go over to our task list items adapter, because what we want to do here is we want to activate this part here. So we want to make this visible, this here at the left, or this button here, then this element and that one. So we want to make all of that visible once we click on add card. All right, so let's add the functionality in our function here, and we need to do that in our onBind view holder. So there, where we do all of the holder item stuff, so a bunch of code. You can see it's the longest function that we've created so far, I think, because here we have all of the different cases, all of the different items that we use. So holder item view dot tv add card, and I want to add and set on click listener here, set on click listener. So tv add card is this button here, okay, this text view. It's not an edit text or anything else, not a button, it's just a text view, right? We had that before. And once we click on that, then we want to make this thing here visible, which is a card by itself. Okay, so let's do that. Let's go ahead and say holder dot item view dot tv add card dot visibility should be gone. So the text view should be gone, view dot gone, and the CV add card, so holder dot card view or item view dot card view, so CV add card visibility should be visible. So view dot visible. So basically we're hiding this add card and we're displaying this part here. So that's what happens once you click on that button. Now we have this button here, which cancels the whole process and does the opposite. So it just displays the add card again, but doesn't display this card view anymore. So we need to implement that as well. Of course, here holder.itemView.ib close, and here card name, set on click listener, and here I want to pretty much do the opposite of what we've done here. So now this one will be visible and the other one will be gone. All right, and now the magic happens in the next step. So here, this is where the actual creation of the card happens. So when we click on this button here, then a very similar thing to what we have done here when we done editing the list, or actually even here when we done creating the list should happen. So let's go ahead and copy that and put that in here. So this time it's IB done, not the list name, but card name set on click listener. So here now we get the card name. And where do we get it from? Well, from our edit text card name. So here is the card name edit text. From that we get the string, and then we check, is the card name not empty? If it's not empty, then we want to call a function here to do add a card. Okay, so this is what we need to implement still. And otherwise, we will make a text, please enter a card name. All right, so now let's implement this function. We need to build it. Where would we build it? Well, let's see where we build this other function, this update task list, for example. It's in the context. What is the context? Well, the context is the task list activity. So let's go over to the task list activity and actually create the function there. All right, so let's go ahead and create a new function at the very bottom. I'm just going to call this one fun add card to task list. And here we need to pass in the position, then the card name, which will be a string, and that's it. Okay, so we don't need much more here. And what do we want to do? Well, we want to remove the last item, so it's pretty much the same thing that we have done here with this board list. So let's do that. Remove add board task list. As you know, we get rid of stuff here with that, and then we can create a new card assigned users list, which will be an array list of string. And I'm gonna assign an array list here for now, empty array list. And then we can add something to it. So card assigned users list dot add, and here we get it from the Firestore class, get current user. So here Firestore class dot get current user ID. So this will give us the assigned users. If you recall, if we look at a card, we can see we need to get an array list of strings, which is assigned to. So all of the people that this card is assigned to. All right, so that's what we do with this here. So we get the current user and we add that to the users who this card is assigned to, because it can be assigned to multiple users, right? And then we can create the card, val card, which will be based on the card name. Where do we get the card name from? Well, we get that from here, from the top. And by the way, let's import card here so that we can use it. So we need the card name and we need to get the current user, because that's the one who created it. So we can just go ahead and say Firestore class. And at that point, maybe it makes sense to store that in a variable so that it's constantly available, right? That would be an option. And then we also need to pass in the card assigned users list. Okay, so all the three values, if you look at it, the name, created by, and assigned to. Okay, so that's what we pass here. The name of the card, the person who created the card, which is the person who is currently logged in, and then the card assigned users list, which currently just has the creator in it. Okay, because that's the only information we have so far. Later on, we can, of course, adjust it, but for now, that's going to be it. Okay, and now we can go ahead and create a cards list, which will be the mboard details dot task list at the position that we're currently at. So as you know, we have multiple positions now. So this one is the position of the list. So is it list 1, list 2, list 3, and so forth. And then we have another position, which is the position within the list of cards. Okay, so this is the task list position that we currently are at. And there we need the cards. Okay, so if we look at the task list, you can see here a task list consists of tasks, a task consists of cards, And that's basically what we have here. We get the cards from the task list, which is inside of boards. And then we can use that card list and add something to it. And what will we add? Well, we add the card that we just created. So add the card. So if there was nothing in there, then this will be the first card. But then if there were cards in there, this will be the next card that will be added to our cards list. All right, and at that point, we can create a task. So we can go ahead and say a task should be task with mboard details dot task list at the position title. So this way we get the title of the task list. And then what else do we need when we create a task? Well, we need to know who created it. So we can just go ahead and say created by. So who was the creator dot created by. And then we can pass in the cards list that we just prepared. So we created it, we got the old cards that we had, we added the new card that we just created beforehand, and then we created the task based on that. And now we can assign that task that we just created as the task for the current position. So we basically just replaced the old task with the new task, but the updated task. So this is just the updated task, which also contains the latest cards list. All right. So here we're just gonna say, okay, let's go ahead and use the task list at the position equals task. So I see that this could potentially be the most complex part. If you try to build it yourself, this will be probably the most complex part to make this connection between the three elements, right? Between the board, the task, and the actual card. All right. So then we can now go ahead and show the progress and update the task list. So basically what we've done here as well, because now we have the latest version of the boards. And that's a cool thing about the board, because the board contains everything, right? The board is the parent. The board is the parent of the tasks, and the task is the parent of the cards. So if we have the board, we have the task and we have the cards. So we don't need to update them individually, but we can just put everything into the board, which we do here. And then we can just say, okay, let's update the board. Okay, now we can test that on our device. Let's see if it's actually creating the tasks, even though of course we have no way of displaying the tasks yet. So, or actually the cards yet. So we still need to add that functionality, but step by step, right? So first of all, we create it in the database, we check the database out if it's there, and then later on we can get that from the database. Okay, so there we are. Let's go to the board with image. Let's add a new card. Okay, the button seems to work. Let's cancel it. Okay, that worked. Now let's call this one card 1. Stupid name, but good enough. Let's press this button. And currently nothing happens. And that is of course because we're not calling this function. So you can see this function is gray. If it's gray, it's never called. That's always a good indicator that you miss some code. And that's the to-do that we prepared, right, in our task list adapter, where we said, okay, here, if it's not empty, here at the bottom, add a card. So let's call this function. And we get that from the context, right? Context dot add card to task list. Like that. And now, of course, it needs some information. So what kind of information does it need? It needs the position and the card name. So let's give it the position and card name. So it's basically the position and card name, because the position, it's the same name, right? It's the position of the, here at the very top of the on-bind view holder, and it's the card name, which we just prepared a second ago, which we get from the added text. Okay, now let's run it again. Okay, so let's load the board again. Let's create a card. I'm going to call this one card 1. Let's press the button this time. Please wait, please wait. All right, it's gone. Now let's look in the database. And we can see we have a task list. And inside of this task list, we have a card which is called card1, which was created by that person and which is assigned to that person, which is the creator, which is the only user that we have, which is Homer, or dennis@gmail.com. Okay, so that seems to work. Now we just need to retrieve the cards to also display them, because just storing them is not going to be enough, right? But you can already see how the whole structure comes together, right? So we have the assigned to, so a board is assigned to someone, it's created by someone, there's an image for the board, it has a name, then it has a task list. In our case, we only have one entry here in the task list, and then it has a bunch of cards. Well, the task list is created. You can see title list 1, then created by the person, and then it has a bunch of cards in there. Okay, so that is it for now, and I'd say see you in the next video.